What do you do when things are outside of your control? What do you do when you're a Christian who believes in God and has faith in God, but you're going through challenges in your life and you feel like things are outside of your control? We're going to dive into that today. I'm really excited about this podcast and this episode. It is our first Christian Entrepreneur episode of 2025, and we've got some great stuff planned for you guys on this episode. And I'm just so stoked that you guys are here, that you're listening to this podcast. If you're listening to this podcast and you've never listened to it before, I want you to know what we stand for here on the Christian Entrepreneur Podcast. See, we believe that we were put on this earth for a reason, that God has given all of us gifts, talents, ideas, dreams, and passions for a reason, and they were entrusted to us to be good stewards of. And being a Christian entrepreneur is understanding your life is not just about existing and getting saved and going to heaven, but we have this time period that we're here between the moment that we're born and we die and we go into heaven when we have salvation. And I believe that God entrusted us with this life to do great things. And I believe entrepreneurship is one of the great ways that we express that creativity and that being that God has put inside of us, using the gifts that He gave us. Each of you, there will never be another you in the world. And so on this episode, we believe in doing business God's way. We believe in making God our CEO, building businesses with God and for God, and creating and multiplying wealth for the kingdom. We also know it's important to personally develop ourselves and grow in who God created us to be. So my hope and my prayer is that this podcast can be a resource for you to help you personally develop yourself and unlock the greatness that God has put inside of you. And that on these podcasts and on these episodes, you can get some nuggets of wisdom from revelations that I've gone deep into, that I'm implementing in my life, or the guests that I bring on, and you can go implement those things and learn from those things in your own life. Guys, we are going into an incredible year, a new year. There's a shift, there's a turning of a tide, there's a move of God that is happening in the world right now. We got a new president stepping in a few days in the United States, and I'm personally really excited about the next 4 years. And I think there's this opportunity that we're going to have to really seize these years that are ahead of us to do great things with what God has called us to do. And I want to press on that, guys. Don't miss the opportunity to do great things when we have the circumstances, the economy, the right leaders in place and stuff to really go all out on the dreams that God has called us. He gave you the dream. He gave you the vision, and to steward it with excellence. And our primary audience is business owners. And if you're a business owner, then you have opportunity this year to grow and scale your company bigger than it's ever been before, to impact and change so many people's lives. But there's things we have to go through as Christians in the process of building our businesses that are important to talk about, that are important to dive into. And that's why in today's episode, I want to dive into something that it was a kind of a crazy God story this morning. You know, I've been traveling with my wife. I'm in Greece right now. I'm in Mykonos on an island, one of the Greek islands. It's absolutely beautiful. The backdrop behind the camera, which I'm looking out at, is the ocean, and it's mountains with all the white villas and houses, and it's absolutely beautiful. We've been traveling for months. We worked our way across the United States. Then we flew to Portugal. We spent a week there. We spent a week in Spain. We just got done spending an entire month in Italy. It was incredible. We stayed in Lucca. We went to Florence. We went to Rome. We went to Venice, and all these incredible places that we always dreamed of going. Guys, it is important to enjoy the life that God has given you. It's also important to never see those things like traveling through Europe, like me and my wife are doing right now, as unattainable for you, because it is attainable and any of you can do it. We have to set our mind to it. We have to partner with God. We have to co-create. We have to be strategic in the way that we produce wealth and finances and manage our time to allow ourselves the freedom to do incredible things. But I want you to know that it's possible for all of you. Every trip you want to take, every dream, every goal that you have, it can happen. And it starts today with being intentional. So I'm here this morning, and we've got this amazing house that we're staying in with an infinity pool and a hot tub and overlooking the ocean. And I'm in a season right now of rhythm. I found in business, rhythm and harmony are so important. You have to find the rhythm of rest in work and rest in enjoying things in your life. In my younger years, I just worked all the time, and I thought that was the way to success. And I listened to all these quote unquote success gurus out there who preached, if you don't work every Saturday, you're a failure. And I've learned that's not true at all. In fact, my best work, my most creative work, my most innovative work, my most productive work comes from being in a flow of rhythm in my life, a flow of rest and adventure and fun and joy mixed with work and creating from a healthy place, from a full place. Now, I think there are seasons of our life where we do have to sprint. There are seasons of our life where we do have to lock in. Diligence is required to be successful, and you need to discern with God those seasons and know those seasons. But I found that my best that I can show up like I'm giving you today on this podcast comes from a rhythmic of resting and working. Like today, I woke up, and I'm going to share a story with you guys. Actually, the message I have for you today came from this morning, and then I went out and explored this beautiful island with my wife. Then I came back, and I'm back into a rhythm of work. I'm preparing for a Bible study I'm about to run with the Christian Entrepreneur Club. I'm recording this podcast. I'm highly productive, and it's crazy because I've seen God exponentially multiply what me and my wife are putting our hands to when we're in this rhythmic place with Him. It's this constant trust with God, this constant obedience with God. It's amazing. So guys, let's dive into what I have for you guys today. I'm so excited about this. And the message is, what do you do when things are outside of your control? So I woke up this morning, we're staying at this beautiful villa, and I wake up and I come down here, and I have a routine of spending time with God in the morning, making a good cup of coffee, or over here in Europe, a cappuccino. We were in Italy, un cappuccini, and Italy was so fun. And just kind of spending time with the Lord, and then I like to go into a creative mode. I'm writing a book right now called God is My CEO, How to Do Business with God and for God. And that's kind of a routine I've been developing and getting into and trying to write every single day and finish this book. But I wake up this morning, and to my surprise, our power inside of our Airbnb, or it's actually a VRBO, was completely out. There was no power in the house. And you can imagine I was a little shocked, like, what the heck? Why don't we have power? So of course, I went into problem solving mode. I'm an entrepreneur. I go to the fuse box and I check it. I'm like, man, the fuse box, everything, the switches are on, everything looks good. So I messaged the host, and I tried to solve the problem on my own. But I soon learned that it was outside of my control. See, he said there might be an area outage, but for the meantime, all I could do was wait and trust that it would come on again. And if you're anything like me, you're a little frustrated in that. You like your routines, you like being productive, you like getting things done. And this was outside of my control. There was nothing I could do myself to get the power to come on in that moment. So I walked outside by the pool deck area. I sat on one of those pool chairs looking out over this beautiful infinity pool in the ocean, and I just went to God. And I had a moment with God, a moment of Him reminding me we can't control everything. So much so that I sat down on that chair. And I started talking to God, and I started going to God, and He gave me this download, and I opened my phone and I began to write and share the message that I'm going to give you right now. I wrote this entire message with our power out this morning, sitting by the pool on the notes in my iPhone. And God began to speak to me about what we do when things are outside of our control. And I think this is going to be a powerful thing to set the tone for the new year. There's a lot of things about, I could tell you how to set goals and all these different stuff and how to crush this year. But God showed me a download of what do we do when we're pursuing our goals and ambitions in life and we encounter things that are outside of our control. Guys, we are entering a new year. It is 2025, and we have goals and we have ambitions for our life. And if you don't, you need to start there. So this is going to be a great year. I can feel it, but the process of building our businesses and lives this year, we're going to encounter these moments of extreme challenges that are outside of our control. Now, power off in a VRBO, it's not like a crazy challenge. It's something that's just frustrating, but it reminded me of challenges that I've faced in my life that were outside of my control. So I want to help prepare you as a Christian entrepreneur, for when moments arise this year that you're going to face these circumstances that are outside of your control, and what we can do with God and how we can look at that perspective. I'm going to shift some things for you guys today in your belief systems, in your mindset, and your perspective that are going to help prepare you when these moments arise, because they will come. They always come. In fact, God lets them come because reliance on him when we have no solution in our own willpower is actually faith. So I want to tell you, Proverbs 3:5-6 says, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to him, and he will make your paths straight. Faith requires submission and surrendering and trusting that things will work out even when you know that you can't fix them yourself. Guys, that's true faith. That's true submission. That's truly submitting to God and trusting him, is knowing that you cannot create all these great outcomes in your life on your own. You can't solve every problem on your own. And sometimes things are outside of your control. So my first point today is we can't control everything. As human beings, we love to control things. As entrepreneurs, one could argue we're a little more controlling. We've worked hard. We've built businesses. We've overcome challenges every single day. And our businesses are our babies that we've raised and grown from infancy. We sometimes struggle to allow other people to do things even in our business for us because we're so used to doing it all. We're control freaks. In other words, a lot of us entrepreneurs like to control everything. And we develop mindsets and belief systems that we can do anything we set our minds to. We learn how to problem solve, strategize, mastermind, and create solutions for any problems that we face. And this is good. This is a good mindset to have. If there's a will, there's a way. I can do anything I set my mind to. I say that all the time. But one big lesson we all learn in this process is we cannot control everything. Proverbs 16:9 says, in their hearts, humans plan their course, but the Lord establishes their steps. Even though we try, we will be met with circumstances that arise that are outside of your and my control. A small example is this morning. I had plans to work on things this morning in a beautifully designed schedule that I worked hard on, and most of those things required a laptop with internet. Now, sure, maybe I could have hopped in my car early and drove somewhere that maybe had Wi-Fi on this island and worked, right? There maybe is a solution. So maybe there possibly is something that I could create to solve this problem. But working from our home and the way I wanted to work was outside of my control. Or maybe you face some circumstances in your business that are outside of your control. A massive challenge arises out of circumstances that limits your ability to operate your business like you'd like to. Maybe you have a building that you've been operating your business out of for years, your brick and mortar business, and you rent this building and this property to be able to have your storefront. But the owner of that property just sold it, and they're not renewing your lease. So the new person is coming in and you're being told, hey, you have to move out of this property at this deadline. The location has been everything for you in the last decade. Everyone in your town knows this location and you've relied on that to get customers, and now you're forced to move the business. Guys, this is outside of your control. Or maybe you just lost a loved one in your family. We have some people in our life right now that are going through this, that are business owners, and you're devastated. And you're doing your best to comfort your family members and still get up and work your business. But losing someone we love is outside of our control. So what do we do when we go through circumstances that things are outside of our control? We surrender it to God. We tap out and we submit, trusting him and having faith that he will use these circumstances for good in our lives. Romans 8:28 says, and we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose. People say all the time, God doesn't give you more than you can handle. The more time I've spent on this earth, I'm not sure I completely agree with that anymore. I think sometimes he does, but it brings us to our knees before him. It makes us reliant on having faith in him, knowing he does love us. He does care about us, and he is for us. Guys, he's for you. I think the better phrasing would be, God doesn't give you more than you can handle when you're reliant on him. If you're facing something in your business or your life right now that is outside of your control, worry not. Go before God, get on your knees and trust him. Submit to him. He will make a way. The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still. Exodus 14:14. So my second point is we have to know everything's not in our control in the first point, but the second is be available to take action. Just because something is outside of your control doesn't mean God won't call you to take action to help position you for a good outcome. Submission is the first step. In submission, we trust and can hear from God. The second step is listening and being obedient. But the doers of the word and not hearers only, deceiving yourselves, James 1:22. Be a doer of the word, not just a hearer of the word. I think some Christians, they're so focused on hearing from God, but they're not ready to act and be obedient when God speaks to them. Often in my life, when things were outside of my control, like this morning, I go to God in all my frustration and all of my disappointment. I submit to him, I talk to him, and I listen to him. God is always one prayer away. Matthew 7:7 says, ask and it will be given to you. Seek and you will find. Knock and it will be opened. The door will be opened to you. Guys, all we have to do is go before God in these circumstances. So this morning I was frustrated. I went outside. I submitted to God. I talked to him. He spoke to me and he told me to pull my phone out and to start writing this down. Sometimes in your business, things are going to be outside of your control. You're going to feel scared. You're going to feel confused. You're going to feel unsure of what to do. Go to God. Make him your CEO. Point number 3, the process won't always look like you wanted it to. Don't miss this. God wants to bless us. He created us. He loves us. He wants great things for us. But the way he unfolds those blessings often looks different than what you and I envisioned. Isaiah 55:8 says, for my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, declares the Lord. You might look at your goals this year and start to feel like you're falling behind. Things haven't gone the way you wanted. You're excited right now. We're a few days into 2025, but what happens at the end of Q1, end of Q2, when things are outside of your control? Things aren't going the way that you wanted. The process looks different than you thought it would look. But see, God's timing is perfect. Galatians 6:9 says, do not grow weary in doing good, for in a proper time you shall reap a harvest if you do not give up. But see, the reason why the scripture is so powerful is because the process that God's going to take us on to do incredible things in our life is not always the process that we envisioned in what it would look like. And in the process of doing good things in this world and being obedient to God, we're going to get tired. We're going to get exhausted. We're going to get frustrated. We're going to feel challenged. We're going to want to give up. We're going to start feeling weary. But God says, do not grow weary in the process of doing good. If what you're doing is good, if what you're doing is in alignment with God and you know it, guys, don't grow weary. Keep going, because in a proper time, you shall reap a harvest. So I want to say that this message came to me because I was in a small moment this morning of feeling frustrated of something being outside of my control. And sometimes I'm a little bit of a control freak with how I want to build my life. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that because I'm intentional with my life. But God revealed to me, Cody, you can't control everything. And I don't want you to control everything. In moments you can't control everything, I want you to come to me. I want you to submit to me. I want you to listen to me. I want you to hear from me. And I want you to be obedient with what I've told you to do. Sometimes rejection is redirection. Maybe I didn't give you that power this morning that you wanted to get on your computer to write your book because I had a message I was trying to get to you so you could show up and record this podcast today, because I'm trying to get this message to someone that needs to hear it, because I'm trying to do something in their life. It was a process that I could never have envisioned myself or understood. Guys, life is lived forwards, but understood backwards. We don't always understand what God is doing in our life when he's doing it, but we will look back one day and we will go, oh my God, I see what you were doing there, God. And guys, as you step into this year, into 2025, and you have your goals and you have your dreams and you have your ambitions and you have your business, you're going to set out to do incredible things this year. And you should be intentional. It's a great time to be alive. But in the process of building your business, you're going to encounter circumstances that don't go the way that you thought they would. You're going to encounter things that are outside of your control. And it's going to require you to go to God, to partner with God, to make God your CEO, to submit to him, to hear from him, and to operate out of that place. And the longer I live and the more I do this, the more I understand that God's way is the best way, that Cody only knows so much. I'm so limited on my understanding of life, on my understanding of business, on my understanding of people, but God isn't. So when I partner with God, when I make God my CEO, God directs me and shows me how to live the life to achieve the desires of my heart, but ultimately to do the best things I can do on this planet while I'm here. And so I hope that encourages you guys. I hope that inspires you. It was a message that came out of nowhere, and I just felt God wanted me to share this with you guys. And you know, if you're getting value from this podcast, if this spoke to you, I want to invite you guys to leave a review. It helps us reach more people. But actually, the biggest thing I feel God putting on my heart is send this to one person today who needs to hear this podcast. Share it with them. Let's get the word out. You know, when we get revelations from God, it's important that we share it with people so we can help our brothers and sisters become all that God created them to be. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this podcast. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to it. My wife and I got a lot of cool things going on for this year. If you're a Christian who owns a business and you want to be in community with my wife and I and around hundreds of other Christian business owners just like you, in the show notes of this podcast, we have a link to join a call I hold a couple times a week. On that call, I'm going to share with you a message on how to build business God's way. You're going to get a free training, and I'm going to teach 3 revelations that God's given me and how we do that really well. We're also going to share with you our community, the Christian Entrepreneur Club, and how you can be a part of one of the fastest growing communities in the world right now, bringing Christian business owners together to build business God's way, create and multiply wealth for the kingdom, and not be alone in the process. The first thing God said was not good was for man to be alone. You do not have to bear the burden of building your business on your own. Whether it's Christian Entrepreneur Club or another community, get in community of like-minded Christians who are living out the calling that God has on their life too. We have such a temporal time that we're here. It's important to tap into resources like this. It's important to listen to podcasts like this, but it's also important to get into proximity to people like that so you can continue to grow and be sharp. And so I want to invite you guys to join the Christian Entrepreneur Club if it's in alignment with you. We've also got a YouTube channel. If you want to watch the video version of this, just look up the Christian Entrepreneur on YouTube. A lot of content going to be coming out this year, and I want to get it to you guys. God's been speaking to me. I've been writing this book, and I've got so many trainings that I'm going to be releasing completely free to you guys that I want to get into your hands because I think it's important. I think there's a move of God in the marketplace like we've never seen before, and the time is now. The time is now to take territory, to build successful companies. It says the wealth of the wicked is stored up for the righteous, and a good man leaves an inheritance for his children's children. Guys, we have a responsibility to win in life. You have a responsibility to become all that God created you to be and to be highly successful and excellent in what he's called you to do. And I know that requires constant learning, constant development, and none of us can do it on our own. So my hope is that this podcast can help you in that journey. Our community can help you, and you can help some other people because the rising tide does lift all ships. Let's make it an incredible year, and let's make it a great day. All right, guys, I'll see you on the next episode.